There we go. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really, really appreciate it. Whether you're with me live on the webinar or whether you're with me on Facebook, I would love to know who you are and a little bit about yourself, if you're comfortable with that. I'm going to be monitoring Facebook, so when I'm looking away from the camera, it's because I'm watching for the Facebook feed for comments. So I would love to know just your name and where you're from. And, you know, if you're comfortable, I'm going to lose my voice. If you're comfortable letting me know what your training is, what your holistic training is, I would love for you to share that with me as well. I'm going to invite you right now to turn off all your distractions, and actually I'm going to do that too. Now, of course, you can't do that if you're actually watching this on your phone, but I am actually going to put my phone on airplane mode. I love my mother desperately. I really, really do. She always calls when I'm in the middle of teaching a class. So I put my phone on airplane mode so that I can call her back when we are done. And again, I would love to know, just if you'd put your name in the comments and what your specialty is, that would be great. I like to tweak this presentation on the fly, and I will make it way more personal for you if I know a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be great. Have you taken that moment to turn off your distractions as much as you can? You know, if you're in your office, can you close the door? Things like that. Excuse me, just a second. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that voice is going to hold for this hour. It's been a full day with clients, and I'm afraid I've overtalked, and now we're paying the price for it. So bear with me on this one, if you would, please. So today we are doing Iridology and your health coaching business, plus we are going to look at 4 simple strategies that will help you to get your client programs created in under an hour. So I want to know, is that a challenge for any of you? Any of you that are seeing clients now having a challenge getting your client programs created quickly and while you are with your client? Is that a question mark for any of you? You know, and again, I'm just going to invite you to drop comments in the chat box, and whether you're with me on the webinar or on Facebook, and give me some feedback, because the more feedback you give me, the more I'll shine and the more information you're going to get out of me today. So do you have problems getting your client programs created in your paid client sessions? Or are you like so many practitioners where you see the client, then you go off and donate your time to create the program to deliver back to your client? I'm going to really take you through some things that can be very helpful for you right away. Simone is asking, will there be a replay? Unfortunately, I can't watch this right now without distractions. Simone, I'm going to be leaving this up on Facebook until tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you can make time to get to it before then, that would be amazing. Thanks for asking that. I really appreciate that. All righty. So we are going to be working with some really, really common problems that many nutrition coaches and herbalists have. The first one is that they don't feel totally confident when they're face to face with their clients. And what that means is that you know your stuff, but you think, oh golly, I really want to spend some extra time creating the program for this client. So that lack of confidence is there, and you give your client just a tiny taste of what they need, not enough to get them any results, so that you can buy yourself time to go off and create the program on your own time. Another problem that many clients or many practitioners suffer from is sort of a part of that first one, and that is that they give their time away for free. Whether it's the actual consultation that they're not charging for, or whether it's time to create the program. You know, and I've talked with so many practitioners, nutritionists, and herbalists who spend 2 to 4 hours of their own time unpaid creating client programs. So for every 1 hour that they are paid for, they're actually working 3 to 5 hours. Now, you know, if you're charging $300 or $400 for that one session, that's fine. You're being paid for your time, whether they're with you or not, right? But if you're charging $50 or $75 or even $100 for that first hour, and you're not being paid for your program creation time, You have effectively reduced your wages to something less. If you're charging $100 for that first hour, something less than $33 an hour. And then you've got to pay your expenses out of that, right? So you give your time away for free, and so many practitioners do that. We feel pressured to. We're in the caregiving industry, and we love what we do, and we just want to help people. And I'm not saying we want to be money grubbers and that we want to live in a 10,000 square foot house and have maids and servants and, drive a 2022 BMW kind of thing. But we do need to at least make enough money to pay the bills and have a lifestyle that makes it worth us working with our clients, right? Does that make sense? And so I'm really wondering, do you give your time away? And if you do, how much time do you give for every paid hour? The third problem that so many practitioners have is their clients only come in for 1 or 2 appointments and then they disappear. So that's a challenge. And we're going to talk about in a few minutes why that happens and what you can do to stop that from happening in the future. And number 4 is, because your business is not being as successful in the ways that you want it to be, and you may be feeling kind of unsuccessful, or you might have pressure from other family members, you might be feeling like you should just get a real job. So I would love to know, out of all of these 4 things, the lack of confidence, you give your time away, your clients only come in once or twice and then they're gone, or you feel like you should just get a real job, which of those, and you can choose more than one if you want, but which one or 2 or 3 or 4 of those are your little thorns in your side, or the things that are just niggling in the back of your brain all the time? I would love to see that. If you could drop that in the comments, give you just a second to do that. And online, we've got Sandra, and she's saying 1 and 2 are her worst. And Lizzie has weighed in, and she's saying 1 and 3. Okay, fabulous. We're going to help you girls out. We're going to help you get some results here. I want to sweeten the pot just a little here, and I've got a very simple but very effective gift that I want to give you if you stay with me to the end of this presentation. All right, and this gift is something that is going to help you keep your client sessions running on time, and is also going to help you begin to get your client programs created right when you are in your paid client sessions. How does that sound? Is that something that you think would be helpful for you? If you could have something that could really reduce your program creation time? If that is something that you feel would be important and that you'd benefit from, give me a number 1 in the comments box. Give me a number 1 in the comments box. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Okay, I have just lost my Facebook feed. Just let me grab this over here because I do need to watch this. I clearly messed up there. Just give me just a second and we will get this right back. Okay. There we go. We're golden. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your patience with that, because you know what? Here, I'm going to share with you what the real problem is. Now, the real problem with the way you create, the way I was taught to create, the way we all create our client programs, is that in school, we were taught to do case studies. We were not taught how to actually write programs. And when we write case studies, they eat up our time, they suck our energy, they kill our dreams, and they just don't work. They just don't work. And I'm going to share with you why as we go through with our time today. Now, when I first started in this industry 4 decades ago, 1980 was when I started, I had a dream. I wanted to have a happily full appointment book. I wanted to be able to get home for my kids' soccer games or whatever they needed me for. I wanted to be there for my children. I didn't have children yet in 1980. We were just getting ready to get pregnant. And I wanted my clients to feel successful for working with me. I also wanted them to enjoy such good success that they wanted to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And I don't mean like once a month for their entire life, but I mean, come in for 4 or 5 sessions and then go and enjoy the benefits of what we had done. And then in 4 or 5 years, when their body is shifting again, they can come back in for 4 or 5 more sessions. I wanted that. I wanted my clients to keep wanting to come back. And I absolutely wanted to feel successful. That was really important for me. That was my goal as I started in this industry. Now, before we get going too far, I should share a bit of my background with you. This is me and my husband. 7 of these beautiful human beings are our children. 5 of these beautiful human beings are our children from another mother. That's I saw this somewhere. I don't remember. It was somebody that I was with on Facebook that sent this to me as a message, and maybe you are with me who said this, and I love this. You said you had an errand to do for your mother in love, and so 5 of these children, I am hopefully what they would call their mother in love, and then 8 of these younger beautiful souls are our grandbabies. So 40 years ago, it was just me and my husband. And about 35 years ago, this child, and make sure I pick the right faces here, and this child, and they were with us. I was pregnant with this one. All right. And so in those early years, I was often pregnant or nursing. And often I would have a nursing baby with me in the office. If I was teaching a class, I would have the nursing baby with me at the class. This was way before the internet. And I loved having my children with me, but I was really busy, as you can imagine, with a young and growing family, really, really busy. And so if you are busy, I get it. Now, my life is quite different. We only have one of these lovely people at home with us still. But I have an aging mother and an aging mother-in-law. And my mother lives about 90 minutes away, and I am the child who lives closest to her. So I am often on call to go and be with my mom and to help her out. So we are busy in many different directions. And I know how stressful that can be. So the thing I want you to really take away from this is that I have grown my business while being very busy. It's totally doable. I have added in those years things like Master Herbalist Diploma, certified Iridology from 3 different schools, certified Iridology instructor. I've added aromatherapy training and flower essence training and emotional freedom techniques. Some people call it tapping training and VitaFlex training. And so I've done a lot with having the children. I get it. I get what busy looks like. In all those years, as I learned and studied and added more credentials, I didn't necessarily accept everything I was taught, especially when it came to iridology. So there was a lot of conflicting information. And I had to sift and sort and chuck what didn't work and keep what did. But, ultimately, we also have to keep in mind nowadays that many of us practice under some restrictions. Right? The governments are telling us what we can and can't do, what we can and can't say, and we need to be able to practice safely whatever our modalities are. I just want to underscore for you how important iridology can be in that staying safe, because when you do iridology properly, you will never be diagnosing and you will never be prescribing. Okay, so I want to roll the clock back 35 years. Because at that point, with 2 babies and another one on the way, so we're talking, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and being pregnant, I was working a lot of overtime trying to get my client programs developed, and I was tired. I was so tired, and I was overwhelmed, and I was frustrated, and I was depleted, and I was starting to resent my business. And my office phone would ring, and I would think, oh, do I have to pick that up? If it's another client who needs something, I think I'm just going to cry, right? Because I was so drained. There was whatever I was doing to manage my business was not working. There was no training in how to run the business. There was no mentorship for that. And it was really frustrating because I believed then, and I still believe now, that every client program should have an individualized touch. I don't believe in cookie cutter programs. So I'd love to know if that's you. Do you believe that every program should have a bit of individualization with it, that it should be honoring the client, not a set program? If that is you, just put, give me a 2 in the comments box. A 2 will just mean that you agree that programs need to be individualized. So I had all this training under my belt and I was still struggling. And I kept thinking that if I kept taking more classes, this would get better. I would finally find the thing. But what I found was the more I learned, the longer my appointments took. So let me tell you what this looks like for me. I would see a client for the very first time. And this is way back before the internet, so I couldn't send them any notes, any forms to fill out or anything before the appointment. But the client would come in and arrive at their appointment time, and I would have a 4-page questionnaire that would take them 10 to 15 minutes to fill out. Well, we'd only booked an hour. So now I only had 45 minutes to sort through what they needed, what they wanted help with, and their questionnaire. And I'd be asking questions and putting all these notes together in my head and on paper of what I thought we needed to do. We'd get to like the hour mark and I still hadn't created a program for them. So I never booked my clients back to back, and I would, which was mistake number 1. And I found that I was tending to go an hour and a half, even sometimes 2 hours with this client, giving them way too much information and really drowning them in program and content. And then as they were leaving, we'd book their next appointment for a month away. And I would go off and spend another 2 to 4 or 5 hours creating a reference folder for them. So, recipes and articles and information and things like that. And I'd be ready and waiting for their next appointment. And often the day before or the morning of, they would cancel. I could not figure out what I was doing wrong. I had given them extra time and not charged for them. I had spent all this extra time that they didn't even know about, and now they weren't going to get the benefit of it. And, you can say that you learn stuff when you do that, but eventually you just end up resenting doing this work and having it not being valued somewhere. So I started to have that idea circle in my head, and that idea was, you should just get a real job. This is so not working. You could make more money and be less stressed working at McDonald's. Does that sound familiar? I mean, I was really at my wit's end, but because that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to work at McDonald's. I didn't want to work for somebody else. I wanted my own business. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and I wanted my own business. I just did. And so I knew I loved what I was doing when I was on top of my game. And this is way back when health food stores were very small and very personal. So this whole holistic health thing was just beginning to open up. Jethro Claus's book, Back to Eden, was hot. It was hot. It was like the #1 bestseller for her books for, in the late 70s and early 80s. But I recognized that something had to change. What I was doing wasn't working, and I needed to make some big changes. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to figure out what I was doing wrong and to find a better way. And so I made the decision to take one more class. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But again, in this process, I was taking more classes, not just the one, but I was taking more classes. And most of those courses simply gave me either another type of a questionnaire, or they gave me a cookie cutter program. Like, if you're doing weight loss, you always do just these things. And that was not where I wanted to come from. And then I took a course in constitutional iridology. And as I looked at this, I already had Jensenian iridology under my belt, and it wasn't working for me. Just saying, it really wasn't working for me. It wasn't doing anything that they said it would do. And I was getting frustrated with that too. So as I gave constitutional iridology a study, I realized that it was really different and that I could do something with this. And as I began to experiment with constitutional iridology in my clinic, I realized that it would help me to focus on the exact inherent potentials, the undercurrent, as well as the current symptoms that my client needed help with right now. And it would help me break their program down into steps. And it would mean that we could achieve success and not work overtime. That was just one of those light bulb moments, right? It was so cool. Along the way, as I was learning constitutional iridology and starting to implement it, I learned something else about myself. And that was that I already knew enough to help just about anybody who walked through my door. Now, I don't mean that to sound snobby and stuck up, but I had a lot of training under my belt. And it doesn't mean that I don't continue to take classes and study, because I do. I love learning. It's just something that it's in my blood, right? But I realized I didn't need to go off and do 2 or 3 or 4 more hours of research to put a program together. I knew it already. I knew how to do this. I knew what they needed. What I didn't know was how to put what they needed in the right order. What should be the first step? What should be the second step? What should be the third step? I didn't know how to sort and prioritize the information in my head to match the process my client needed. Does that sound familiar to you? Is that something you struggle with, maybe, that you think too big in creating your programs and you want to give your client all of that you know? Well, that is exactly how the dynamic iridology assessment system was born. And I've been sharing this now with students for about 5 years. And those students are nutritionists, herbalists, naturopaths primarily. And it's been amazing to see how they have gone from struggling with taking hours to create a program and not feeling quite sure about, is this the right thing to do, to becoming really, really confident, laser focused, and knowing we're doing step 1 today, step 2 a month from now, step 3 a month later, step 4 a month later. And it's really cool to see how it's improved their success with their clients. I would love to see a comment in that comment box again to answer this question. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be able to get your client programs done right in your paid client sessions? What would that feel like for you? How would that change your life? The webinar people it's always faster. There's a delay on Facebook. So while Facebook viewers are answering that question, how would it change your life if you could get your client programs created right in your paid client sessions? On Facebook, we've got Lizzie saying it would free up a lot of time. And Lizzie, I'm really interested in, what would you do with that lot of time? I'd love to see an answer there. And Michelle is saying she would see more clients and she would take up a hobby. Oh, what hobby, Michelle? What hobby do? And Lizzie is saying with that more time, she would probably want to see more clients too. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And Michelle, you would become a yoga instructor. That's cool. That's cool. That sounds like it's something that would enhance what you already offer to your clients. So that is amazing. This is how it changed one of my students, one of my graduates' lives. This is Karen Choate. She's a certified natural health practitioner, the lovely Karen Choate. I love all my students. They are wonderful people. So if you're wonderful, you can take my class. Just saying. She had been in practice as a natural digestive health specialist for quite a few years, but there was a little bit of frustration for her in that even with all of her training, she sometimes had problems figuring out the root of her clients' problems. And then the struggle was, because she didn't know exactly where the root was, how to create the program when you don't know exactly what it needs to be based on. So she would spend a lot of her own time doing research, and it was after hours, unpaid. Yeah, but she's a smart girl. She's a very smart girl. She got interested in iridology and she took the dynamic iridology program. And she was only about halfway through. It's 20 lessons long, and she was about 10 lessons through when she started sending me really excited emails about how what she knew already was changing her clinical work. She said, now I've begun to implement this incredible work in my practice quite successfully. It has truly helped immensely in my decisions and assessments. I am already a much more confident nutritionist. That is cool. She was only about halfway through. So imagine what it would feel like if you had no more unpaid homework to do. You freed up that time. What if you had the confidence to make those program recommendations on the spot and you knew exactly that it was the right thing to do? How's that going to make you feel? What if you have more time? Imagine that feeling of more time. Hobbies, a nap, exercise, more clients, volunteering somewhere. Imagine if, because you are confident, you get the programs right from the start, now your clients are so excited about what you do that they can't stop telling their friends about you. They do your advertising and that fills your appointment book. How does that feel? I'd love to know which of those sounds most exciting to you and how it's going to feel. All right, Karen is saying amazing. Yeah, amazing. That's kind of maybe an understatement, right? But good for you. That's awesome. And Dave, welcome, Dave. Dave is saying that it would feel very liberating. You've got some freedom now with this. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So today I'm going to give you 4 very specific steps that can give you back time and can help you create repeat business. And every one of these steps will work on its own, but if you really want them to shine, if you want to power punch them, I will guarantee that adding dynamic iridology to what you do is going to make these ever so much stronger. Here's what I know for sure. I know that I'm hosting this web class right now because it's been proven time and time again that students who have gone on through this program, through the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System program, have success. And this is the simplest and strongest way to get control of your client hours, to grow your business, and to have the impact that you want to have while putting you in complete control of your time and your ability to make money. Now, anytime in this class, if you're thinking, holy moly, this is amazing, I want to dive deeper, I want the training and the mentoring, I'm going to tell you at the end of this class, of this little web class, exactly how you and I can make that happen. Because you will never be highly successful if your confidence is sagging. And I'm here to support you in getting your professional confidence up and creating the wellness coaching business you've envisioned. All right, so let's look at those 4 common problems that are holding you back in your business, and let's look at some solutions. Does that sound okay? If that sounds good, give me a thumbs up in the comments. All right. Amazing. Sandra and Karen, you're ready to roll with this. Fabulous. Thank you so much. You know, we always have a small group because when you think of who is really invited to this, that it's nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths, it's not a lot of those people in the face of the world, right, on the face of the planet, right? And then we take that down further to who might be interested in learning iridology. So our group is always small, which is why you see it. We have a tiny group with us on the internet right now on the web class. Stumbling block number 1, are you ready? You fire hose your clients with too much information. Yeah, this is really, really an important one. And I've seen people do this who have been experienced practitioners. I've also seen new practitioners do this. Why does this happen? Because again, we were taught in school how to write case studies, not how to create programs, right? I mean, I remember this from nutrition school. We were given a profile of a family, a mom and a dad and 2 kids, and we had the kids' ages and their hobbies and what everyone did for work and all that kind of stuff. And we needed to create a menu for the week that would meet all of the nutritional requirements for macros, micros, as well as calories, right? That was a lot of work. It was a big, thick book, and it was more information because than the client needed. And we had to take into consideration their specific health issues and concerns, right? So way more information than anybody needs. And let me rephrase that. Way more information than anybody needs in one appointment. Over time, you actually build that file of information with your client, right? But we've all been through this with the case studies. We were given a description of a person who had a health problem. And then we went to the library and now you'd go to the internet and did all this research about the problem, about possible solutions, about all kinds of stuff. And we became experts in that problem, which might have been of value in doing the case study. But then we presented that whole package back as the project, and never at any time were we instructed, break this down into the pieces that you would deliver to your client in appointment 1, in appointment 2, in appointment 3. And so one of the things that really does it to us is we give our clients too much information. Now, what you're going to think and hear with this is, but my clients ask for more information. And I want you to put yourself in the role of almost a parent here. And I'm not doing this in a condescending way, but when your child asks for something that you know is not good for them and could be harmful to them in the long run, do you actually give it to them? I know I didn't. I was the mean parent, and it was like, no, but you can do this, or you can have this instead. When my clients ask me for more, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. I will stop them and I will say, I have confidence that you can. I've seen too many people who could not do more than this and do it successfully. I want to make sure that you are going to be wildly successful with this. So would it be okay if we just focused on these 2 small dietary changes and these 2 lifestyle changes and this 1 supplement for the next month? Make sure you've got that rock solid, and then we'll build from there. And invariably, they all say yes. They're all okay with it. Because when I express it to them in terms of their success, that's exactly what they want too. When we give them these long lists, they can do it for maybe 36 hours and then they can't. It's overwhelming. And you know what? No one is going to come back to see you to say, I failed. I couldn't do it. It was too hard. It was too much, and they're just not. No one wants to admit failure, but when they have been successful, and I tell my clients, I expect 90%. I know you're human. There's going to be days when you fall off the wagon. I just want you to get back on and get back on track. That's okay. Those days are forgiven. They'll come back and they'll go, yeah, I did this 90%, and this is what I'm feeling for it. I can give them a way to go, and then we can build on that. Here's the really hard truth. When you fire hose your clients with too much information, you've successfully made their appointment all about you, your insecurities, and your need to be proven right. Yeah, it's not a good thing. You've really made their appointment not about them. So your strategy here is to chunk it down. Less is more. Give them less. And if they beg for more, just explain that you can't. You can't because you want them to be so successful. And the next step is a big one. The next piece that you need to do is a big piece, and it would be too much added to what they've already got. They'll get it. They'll get it. It'll be hard for you if you're used to giving a case study style report. But this little bit of homework that's going to ensure their success is brilliant. Now, it's the beauty of doing this in small pieces is they start to feel the success of this. And when they come back, it's really easy to get them to do the next piece because they've seen they can do stuff. They've seen they can make changes, and they're ready to go. Stumbling block number 2. Does this sound familiar? You start at the wrong place in their program. Yeah, you can't help them correct a leaky gut if their stomach isn't producing enough acid, can you? You can't help them lose weight through diet and exercise if their intestinal flora is out of balance. You can't help them if you start at the wrong place in the program. So when we're feeling insecure and we don't know what the root of the problem is, so we don't know what the first step of the program should be, we tend to overcompensate with a shotgun pattern. We give too much information, hoping that somewhere in there it's going to work, right? And that's not good. That's not good. Now, the other thing that we sometimes do when we're feeling insecure is we give the client what we think they're expecting, right? They expect this really detailed menu, an eating plan. And so you give it to them, even though you might think in the back of your brain, yeah, that's not the right way to do this, but it's what the client asked for. And since the client is always right, you deliver. And I'm here to tell you the client is not always right. And sometimes we need to be the professional that says, I can't do that for you. It's not the right answer. It's not going to take us where we need to go. We need to go this other way. So, simple strategy number 2 is you have to have a way to figure out what the root of the problem is. So you can start at the beginning and work your way through. Now, part of the reason you need to figure out what the root is because you need to, in your notes, create a therapeutic sequence. You need to write down, what do you think you should do in appointment 1? What will you probably need to do in appointment 2? What will the topic for appointment 3 be? How are you going to proceed with appointment 4? And just keep that in pencil in the margin of your notes. Now, why do you need to do this? This is one of the most powerful tips I'm going to give you today. So you want to write this down. When you are giving this homework and you've given your client that first little chunk of homework that they're going to work on, at the end of their appointment, you schedule them for their next appointment and you make sure they understand some things here. You make sure that they understand what their homework is and why you started there. Because you and I both know that the symptom is not the same as the problem. They may be coming in with a headache or with recurring headaches, but the problem could be dehydration. It could be a spinal misalignment. It could be constipation. It could be from clenching their jaw and grinding their teeth, right? So you have to understand what the pathway is. Why, what is the symptom and what is the root of the problem? And when you make it clear to your client that you understand what the root is and how it ties to the symptom, and that this first piece of homework relates to the root, that you're working at the very root of the problem, that tells the client that you have heard them clearly. It tells them that you know what you are doing. That's good for them to build their confidence in you. And the third thing it does is you're going to say to them in your next appointment, when we are seeing these specific results that we expect to see, we are going to move on to work with the next step. And you can give a real short 10-word description of what that next step is. Not enough for them to do the step, but enough for them to know you've got a plan, right? So you've let them know that they've been heard. You've let them know that it depends on them to get their work done, to get those symptoms, and they have confidence in you because you have a plan. And that's exactly what we need to have happen. I often tell my clients, I can do my best work only when you do your best work. Stumbling block number 3, these electronic gadgets, these assessment biometric doodads or the online questionnaires. Yeah, I've used them in the past. I gave up on them. I found that they were not reliable. The results were not reproducible. And it really started to get me when I'd had one of these for about 7 or 8 months, and my clients started coming in and saying, we're going to do a scan today. I realized then and there that I could be replaced by a machine. If they went online, they could find the machine, they could buy it, and it would come pre-programmed with whatever product line they wanted to learn about and to use, and I would be out of a job. Now, and I also found that these things, because of that, really interrupted my ability to create a strong rapport with my clients. And I really value rapport with my clients. I want that heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul connection with them. Lengthy questionnaires, even 3 or 4 pages, really a waste of time, because they ask so many questions that are really not related to anything that is of concern to your client right now. So rather than wasting your time to sift through that and your client's time to fill it out, let's just ditch the questionnaires, because that is the simple strategy. Just ditch the questionnaire and learn to ask the right kinds of questions. This is so important. Learning to ask client-specific questions is more powerful than any questionnaire ever will be. So we spend a lot of time in the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System program learning not just iridology, but how to use the eyes and the client's symptoms to guide us in asking the right kinds of questions so that we get the right information to create the best program. And we practice that whole sequence of things starting by about the middle of the course. By about week 10 or 11, we are practicing questions and we are starting to practice program creation as well. Iridology can help you laser in on things pretty quickly. Stumbling block number 4, you are not unique. You blend in with the nutrition coaching crowd or the naturopathic crowd or the herbal crowd. Yeah, that's a big ouch, that hurts, right? It really is. Because, you know, coming out of school, you had the exact same training as everybody else. So unless you went in with something special or unless you added something unique, you've got the same training as everyone else. And that means you don't stand out. You blend in with the crowd. And so you need to find a way to stand out from the crowd, to be different, right? That's so important. One of the things that I often ask my students is, in your holistic health training, your herb, nutrition, naturopathic program, did they actually teach you anything about marketing? Real marketing, not just business cards and brochures. Did they teach you anything about how to get noticed? I think those are critical. I think you need to be taught in school. I think it should be a part of every holistic health curriculum, how to get noticed and how to market. Marketing changes like every other week. It's hard. There's a lot to do with it. But if you can figure out how to get noticed and market that, that's what you want to do. So important. Because, you know, as a nutritionist or a herbalist or a naturopath, having a recipe book or meal plans or, you know, some other kind of book, a how-to book, doesn't make you stand out. I've got so many books from so many holistic health practitioners that they've written, and I bought it to support them. And yeah, there's good information in there, but it doesn't make them any more noteworthy. And so it's still not that easy to find them. So yeah. Now it is good to add value, right? And that means continuing to take classes. And it is good to keep learning. And I totally agree with you. Until you get to the point where you realize that you've spent a lot of time and a lot of money learning things that you're actually not using. When that happens, you realize that it's time to get a little bit pickier, right? And to be selective about what you're learning and to understand how what you want to learn next is going to help you use what you already know. You don't need one more standalone skill, right? You need something that integrates everything. So here's the thing. You've already got more training in nutrition or herbology or holistic health than most people. What you need to learn to do is how to integrate everything you know efficiently, quickly, and easily, and in a user-friendly way, so that you can grab the information out of your brain that is really important to your client right now and do it in a way that is not going to snowball your client. Does that make sense? Because you know a lot of stuff already. Yeah. This is, again, what we practice as we're learning iridology in the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System. So now you've got a choice. You can keep on doing what you're doing and hoping that things will magically change while you continue working on unpaid overtime and continue missing time with loved ones, so you can keep overwhelming your clients, right? So they won't come back, while you keep getting discouraged thinking you should just get a real job. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Or you can make some radical changes in what you do and how you think, so you can ditch the overtime, have a life that actually includes time with your loved ones or a hobby or travel or whatever, because you give your clients exactly what they need to succeed. So they want to come back again and again, while you think to yourself, I love the career I've created for myself. And that is where you really probably want to end up, right? When we do this, the beauty of all of this is that when you start applying constitutional iridology in your practice, it is going to help you free up time. It's going to help you increase your income if you choose to see more clients. You can even charge more for your sessions. And it'll help you create your individually designed programs, but still get them done in the paid sessions, which is so cool. And the other benefit here is I used to find when I would snowball my clients that I would end up doing a lot of free counseling on the phone, because they'd be freaking out and wondering about details. Can I eat this? Can I eat that? Should I be turning green with purple spots? Just all kinds of crazy questions. And it would take me like 30 minutes per call to bring them back down to earth, explain things, and get them going again. And with constitutional iridology, because the programs that we create are so simple, I don't have any more of those 30-minute freebies draining my time. Iridology, as you already know, is the science of looking at the colored part of the eye and understanding what the various colors and the various fiber structures there teach us about our client's inherent potential. We also, as modern iridologists, look at the sclera. So while the iris is inherent, the sclera is dynamic. The sclera tells us where the hot spots are in the body right now. And when we combine that with our client's symptoms and combine that with their inherent potentials, we get a really deep understanding of what our client needs next. My first passion, besides my family, of course, is helping my clients achieve greater success. But my second passion, and it is such a close second, is teaching and coaching holistic health practitioners to help them create the business of their dreams. Because it's true that with constitutional iridology, it's going to help you use the other modalities that you've already trained in more effectively and more quickly to create exactly the kinds of programs your clients need, and to help you create the kind of business that you want to have. Does that sound like something you would like? If it does, give me a 1 in the comments box. Yeah. If you want to have some of those good things. Now let's look at a couple of case studies before we talk about the course. That sound okay to you? When we understand iridology and when we understand what our client wants help with, we can create a step-by-step program seriously in under 20 minutes. I had a new client in today, very complex case. We spent about the first 45 minutes. My first appointments are always an hour and 15 minutes to allow time for taking the eye photos. So we spent about the first 40 minutes talking, finding out her history and a little bit about her. And then I did the eye photos. I popped them up on my computer screen. And I literally looked at the screen and I looked at her and I said, I think I know exactly where the problems are. And she went, what? And I said, and I went through about 3 things, ta-da. And she went, all of the naturopaths and doctors I've been to have never, ever talked about those areas, but that makes so much sense. Everybody else has been looking at symptoms, not root causes. So it was really, really fun to do that and to see her face light up. She is also a nutrition coach. And so it all made sense. Let's look at this client's eyes. These are the eyes of a young woman. She's about 20 years old. She was 20 years old when we took these pictures. And she came to me at Christmas break from school. She was in university and she was going to school off the continent. She was home for Christmas and she had been gaining weight that first semester, which I don't know any 20-year-old woman who wants to gain weight. She'd gained about 20 pounds in the past year and about 10 of that in the past 4 months, which was not good. And the doctors had no explanation. They were just calling it the freshman 15. So when I looked at her eyes, I saw something right here Can you see how this fiber is lifted right off the surface of the eye and it's casting a shadow down here? That's how we know it's lifted off the surface. She has another fiber here that's lifted right off the surface and another one right here. This is called a gateway arch, and it's unusual to see these, let alone to see three in one person. This has a strong suggestion, carries a strong suggestion that whoever owns these has an inherent issue with blood sugar balance. And so I asked her, because of the weight gain and because I saw this and I know that blood sugars have to do with insulin resistance and polycystic ovarian syndrome, I asked her about her menstrual cycles. And yeah, her menstrual cycles were about 8 weeks apart. Ding, 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 right? And I do that because a hallmark indication of PCOS is cycles that are 6 weeks or further apart. So I asked her if her doctor had ever said anything about PCOS, and she said no. And I said, well, I can't say you've got it either, but I suspect there is an insulin resistance problem. I suspect that's what's messing with your menstrual cycles, and I suspect that's where the weight gain is coming from. So we talked about being in university with no car. She had a kitchen, and she was eating on the meal plan in the cafeteria all the time. I said, can you not do that? And instead, is there a grocery store you can walk to get groceries? Can you prepare more of your own meals? And she absolutely could. And she had a fridge and all that good stuff. So she started walking to the grocery store twice a week. So it was, I think, a 3-mile return trip, which was good because she wasn't getting any other exercise. And she started preparing some of her meals. And so a few months later, after she'd gone back to school, because she had no budget for supplements, right? We had to work with just food here. She sent me an email and she said the weight was coming off. She had lost 10 pounds in about 3 months, which is really awesome. And her periods were down to 6 weeks, which is amazing. And I wouldn't have known to go those directions and to ask those specific questions if I hadn't seen her eyes. Here is another set of eyes. These are the eyes of one of my 3rd generation clients. I have got clients who, because of the iridology and the nutrition and the herbology work that I do, have been with me for 38 years. We've done the math and we figured out we were having babies at the same time, and we figured out our baby's ages back then and what baby did she have when I had what baby and how many years ago. 38 years, which is pretty amazing. So I helped the grandma of this little girl have this little girl's mommy. And then now I get to work with this little girl. So this is a 4-year-old, and she has what we could call lymphatic eyes, which means they're blue. She comes from an amazing home, very loving mom and dad, very engaged in their relationship and in being great parents, really, really good with nutrition. The mom has written a really fun cookbook. And the mom, because of her mom and because of me, is very comfortable using herbs and extra vitamins as they are warranted. So mom brought this little girl in to see me, not because there were any concerns, but because she wanted to prevent problems. And I love doing iridology this way with children because we look at their eyes, we see their inherent predispositions, and we're able to say to the parents, these are things you need to be watching for and guarding against. And we can preempt things beautifully. So the collarette, this ring coming around here, is pretty close in to the pupil, which means this child is an introvert. She's never going to want to be in big groups. But it also means that she's going to be a little more prone to constipation and to holding her emotions in, which she is. We have a slight tinge of yellow right over here, which suggests we're going to want to watch the kidneys a little bit. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but we want to make sure we don't ever do anything that's going to tax them, and we want to make sure that this little girl stays well hydrated. We also know that the white in here predisposes this little girl to more challenges with elevated acid in her body, not her stomach, but in her body, and mucus production. But we don't need to worry about that. This is the inherent tendency, but her diet is already low acid forming. Lots of vegetables, no junk food. So she's already good. So I was able to just basically say to the mom, keep doing what you're doing because you're right on the right track. You're doing what you should be. Again, this little girl, being a lymphatic constitution, is prone to lymphatic stagnation. So I recommended to the mom, keep her busy, keep her in gymnastics classes and dance classes and swimming, and make sure she gets to the park and to play on the jungle gym and things like that, because she needs the body movement to keep the lymphatic system working well. Also suggested that her skin zone in her eyes looks like it could want to be a challenge at some point in time. And so I suggested dry skin brushing, but using not a brush that's too hard on a child, just a face cloth, a dry face cloth instead, because doing that, keeping the skin breathing well, will also take stress off the kidneys, and that's a good thing. So knowing all of this, I didn't feel the need to give this little girl any supplements. The diet's great. Mom already knows a few basic things to use when the need is there, and we just left it with that. That was so cool. We had so much fun. And it's really great because now I know this little girl, and if problems ever come up, I can go back to her eyes and have a conversation with her mom. This is actually another one of my clients who has been with me since 1982. So I guess that makes it 39 years this year. She has been in and out of my office over those decades. And she started coming back about 2 years ago, and we worked together for about 8 months, and then she faded off, and she's just started coming back again. She's in her mid-60s, and she has a very high stress family situation. When she came back to me 2 years ago, she said her cholesterol was elevated, her triglycerides were up, her A1C was high, and her blood pressure was up. So these are the photos from 2 years ago, and we don't need to reshoot them unless we want to do something with the sclera, but the iris is not going to change enough to warrant doing photos in 2 years. She is what we call a biliary constitution, and that's the name biliary suggests billy, bile, liver, right? We're going to have that liver undercurrent in her predisposition. She's also what we call anxiety tetanic, which means that when we see all of these rings coming around her eyes and these lines radiating out, she internalizes her stress. That's her genetic programming to internalize the stress. And oh my goodness, with the drama in her family, she has a lot of stress to absorb. It means she responds maybe a little more violently is the wrong word, a little more aggressively on an expanded level to stress that is happening. We see that we've got this kind of flattening up here and here as well, which also suggests liver insufficiency. And when we understand things like cholesterol and A1C and triglycerides, we know that we are looking at some liver involvement in those things as well, right? So the liver metabolizes carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates create cholesterol and triglycerides. And that can, in some people, create this white milky film that comes around the edges of her eyes, right up there. So we can see that her body 2 years ago, with the labs that she brought in, we can see that her body wants to sediment those triglycerides into the walls of her arteries, and that's not where we want to see it. So we can see the inherent predispositions of her irides. She's got a lot of inherent predispositions. We can see dynamic indicators in the sclera. When we see thick blood vessels like this is what tells us that there are current issues going on. When we see this, it tells us there's stuff going on, and it tells us where it's happening, and it gives us a pretty good idea of what we need to do about it. So again, elevated A1C, elevated cholesterol, elevated triglycerides. She was overweight by about 40 pounds, elevated blood pressure, inactive, and although she has nutrition and herbal training, her diet was okay, but not great, because she's caring for a husband who has a terminal illness, and it's all about him, which I get, except that if we don't take care of her, she's going to be the one who needs the care. So initially, we got her eating her leafy greens, increasing her protein, increasing her healthy fats, and cutting out her carbs. I could go a little heavier with her on the recommendations because she knows this. She just needed a reminder. We got her walking for 30 minutes a day, and over 3 months, she lost 20 pounds, and all of her labs had come back into the normal range. Then stress hit. and she fell off the program. Just before Christmas this year, like mid-December, I got an email from her saying she had had a major heart attack, but because her husband is really smart and they live 3 minutes from a hospital, he loaded her up and got her over there as quick as he could, and she is going to be fine. But the lab tests show that all of her numbers are back where we started with them 2 years ago because she wasn't doing her homework. What does that mean for us? It means that we just are working now to get her back on track with the diet that she knows works, that works for her, with getting her to walk 20 to 30 minutes a day as she re-strengthens her heart and works with the heart health clinic as well. And she's on a ton of meds because of being in the heart health clinic, but we are working with that to really help her regain everything. Now, isn't that grand? We could see that she was heading for some kinds of trouble, and we started doing the right kinds of things. We just didn't get to them early enough to be able to prevent a problem. So are you ready to make some radical changes in what you know and how you implement it? Are you? Imagine feeling like you've not got just the knowledge, but you've also got the confidence to create huge success for your clients and in your business without working overtime. Imagine what it would feel like to actually be mentored to learn how to make all of this work. What would it feel like to not be having to figure this out by yourself? Would that be a good thing? I would like to introduce to you the details of the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System. It is the only 20-week, fully mentored constitutional iridology training program for holistic practitioners like you, and it's designed to help you incorporate everything you already know about herbology and nutrition while mastering iridology and while building your confidence as a practitioner. And we do this specifically to help you get control of your business and to create the success that you want. So much of what we learn in other courses amounts to standalone courses that actually take up more time to implement. Iridology helps you instead to integrate everything you already know. So if you know herbs or nutrition or flower essences or Bach flowers or aromatherapy or any other holistic techniques, you're going to be able to draw on them more effectively when you incorporate iridology. This will also be way more useful to you and easier to learn if you already have a sound understanding of anatomy and physiology, and if you've got something like nutrition or herbology under your belt as well. So what is the course? It is a step-by-step course that teaches constitutional iridology in a logical and sequential manner. And here's what you get. You get 20 live 2-hour-long webinars. This is all of the curriculum you need to take the IPA certification exam. If you go to the IPA website, you will see many instructors break this down into a level 1 and a level 2 program. I have rolled it all together because it works so well together. Why would I break it into pieces? So if you want to certify as an iridologist, this course will help prepare you. This will contain all the curriculum you need. In lesson 1, you will learn about eye anatomy, history, and have an introduction to what iridology is. And we need that because we need to understand, of course, things like where iridology came from, how it has evolved, and what's important about the eye structure in our opinion. Lessons 2 through 4, we learn the 3 constitutions, and that's important because the constitutions teach us about the basic chemistry of the body and the individual's body. And then we also learn 10 constitutional subtypes. And when you know these, it starts to just speed up your assessment dramatically, gives you an instant understanding. In lesson 5, we learn about pigment. There are 6 pigments that we need to understand, and they teach us about inherent strengths and weaknesses in the body. So when we talk about pigments, we're talking about these little colored spots, or the wash of color, or the gold in here, or the yellow and the white in here. This all gives us information. And when you understand the information, you either understand the body or you know what questions to ask to clarify. We look at fiber structure because when we look at the 15 different ways that fiber can be in the eyes, it gives us understanding as to where hidden inherent health concerns might be sitting, waiting to pop up. We spend a lesson looking at the nervous system and the pupil shape. And when we do this, you know, pupils aren't all around. Can you see that here? These pupils are not all around. And that gives us information about the nervous system and about how the nervous system might not be working quite right and what we can do to help it. Usually what we can do amounts to referring out to some kind of body work. In that case, lessons 10 through 13, we learn about the nutritive zone, which is everything from the pupil to this ring. This teaches us all about how the stomach works, how the intestinal tract works, and that will help us understand, is this person capable of digesting their food well? Are there other organs that are affecting how well the digestive system is working? What do we need to do? Then we learn about the areas outside of the ring. So from here right out to the edge, this teaches us about nutrient transportation, how different organs use the nutrients, how the bone structure uses nutrients, what the surface blood and lymph, how it functions, and how the skin and the surface detoxification organs work. We spend an entire 3 lessons actually looking at, no, sorry, it's just 1, on contraction furrows. And these teach us more about the nervous system, about how a person copes with stress and how stress would show up in their body. In lesson 16, or in 16, we study syndromes, and zone 7 syndromes are very simple to recognize. There's 3 of them, and they're configurations of various markings. And when we see a specific configuration, we know it's a syndrome. We know that's an inherent tendency with an increased risk, and we can begin working with that if it's appropriate for that client at that point in time. In lesson 17, we learn about how eyes change, because they don't change quite the way a lot of people on the internet say they do. And then we spend 2 entire lessons looking at the white of the eye. As we said earlier, the iris itself is inherent. The white of the eye is dynamic. So when we see when we see the iris, we are asking questions about personal and family history as they relate to the client's symptoms. When we see these things, all of this stuff in the white of the eye, it tells us what this body is doing right now and helps us to understand where the body needs some support. By the time we are even just halfway through the course, your confidence will already be noticeably stronger. And by the end of the course, you will be amazed at your transformation, seriously. So I want you to consider for a moment, what would a live 40-hour-long class, what would that actually cost you? Okay, so if you had to travel somewhere to do a 40-hour class, so that would be like 5 or 6 days of in-class workshopping. You would have your tuition for the course. You'd have your transportation to get there. You'd have your hotel. You'd have your meals. You might have ground transportation. You might have left some things back home that need tending, like children or pets. There's the time off work. What is that all going to cost you? You know, I've looked online for other IPA certified instructors that are really good, and they are charging between $1,200 and $2,200 US. Now, this is where it gets maybe a tiny touch confusing because I'm in Canada and I charge in Canadian dollars. So as we're looking at dollar values now, we need to put this all into perspective. So $1,200 US is about the same as 900 Canadian. Okay, so keep that in mind that the US dollar is worth about 25% more. We tallied up what all those expenses would be, and we came up with about 5,700 Canadian is about what it would cost, assuming that you were losing $100 per day working in your clinic, and maybe you would lose more than that, right? The other thing that I've noticed is that when I take a workshop, when I take a course and it's a face-to-face thing and it's an intensive and it's many days long, I don't absorb a lot of it. I'm good for maybe the first day, day and a half. By the end of day 2, my brain is starting to feel like mush. By the end of day 3, I've got writer's cramp so bad that I'm not taking notes. And I'm just hoping that there's going to be recordings that I can buy so that I can watch them one at a time. And that is exactly why I teach this as 22-hour live webinars. So it's one class session, 1 2-hour session a week. The curriculum of this course alone is worth $23.95 Canadian. $23.95 Canadian. All right. We'll talk more about those exchange rates in just a minute if you're working in a different currency. Here's how this course has impacted some of my graduates' lives, some of my students' lives, because sometimes you think, oh, this course couldn't possibly do everything she's promised. This is Sharon Bimrose. She is a naturopath from Australia. She'd already learned some iridology in her naturopathy training, but she said dynamic iridology, it used to be called Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, but the dynamic iridology assessment system surpassed her previous training in structure, content, delivery, documentation, and support. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. Love it. Absolutely love it. I asked my students on Facebook, how has learning iridology helped you in your business? And Karen Cho, we met her earlier. Iridology has helped me understand the relationships between different organs and organ systems more in depth. Iridology also gives me an advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. Therefore, it has helped me to expand my knowledge and increased efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. I absolutely love that. So what does the class look like? Well, it looks like what we're doing right now, except that I encourage my students to turn on their cameras and their microphones so that we can actually have a dialogue. As I'm teaching, you've got questions, you ask them, we discuss things, we make sure that all of your questions are answered, that you are feeling totally rock solid. That is the curriculum for $23.95. But every class session is actually recorded and stored on your student site. So it's like having the class, the whole curriculum twice over. So that's worth $23.95. And every individual topic is recorded. Maybe you just missed one idea. One idea just isn't sitting straight and you want to review that one idea. Go to that lesson, look up that one topic recording, and in 5 to 10 minutes, you're solid again. You've got the explanation. It's like getting the course a third time. So worth $23.95 Canadian. The textbook. In university, you either have to rent your textbooks or buy them, right? Well, in iridology, you have to buy your textbook. The most popular textbooks that are out there in print run about $250 Canadian. I've written a textbook for my course that had to be approved by IPA to say that it actually agreed with the entire IPA curriculum and it passed with flying colors. And it's downloadable. So what that means is I can gift you my textbook. I can gift you my digital iridology map. They are worth together $275 Canadian, and you can take those and print them up. This also means that if the curriculum changes down the road and I update the textbook, which of course I would, you will have access to the most current textbook. Cheat sheets. I've taken the entire curriculum, condensed it into 45 pages of charts. This is a quick reference guide. I know of no other teacher who has actually created cheat sheets for their students. I actually had some of the other instructors who are on the education committee for IPA approach me and ask me if I would sell them a copy of my textbook. I'm kind of jealously guarded. Maybe I could make money selling it out there, even as a digital download. But you know what? I want it for my students. I want my students to have something that nobody else has. Private Facebook group and office hours webinars, $10,000 a piece. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I got to tell you how this came about. 2 things contributed to this. The first one is my constitutional iridology teacher still answers questions for me. He was my teacher 30 years ago. Second thing is, I have bought into many business coaching programs and mastermind programs and things like that were very expensive. They had a set time limit. And at the end of the time, you're kicked out of the Facebook group. There's no more support. I actually think that kind of sucks. Just saying. And so we have a private Facebook group just for the students and alumni. And it's open to you as long as you have been in or are currently taking my class, and you will never get kicked out unless you turn into a not nice person, in which case you're gonzo. But as long as you stay nice, we have the Facebook group, and it's a place for you to ask questions and to have conversations with other students and graduates. There will always be questions come up. I still have questions come up, and I send them to my teacher who doesn't teach anymore, and he's wonderful in that he answers them for me. But I know my students have questions, and so we have twice a month office hours. So it's an open webinar where any of my students or grads can come and ask questions, and we can discuss them with whomever comes, whoever of our community is there. Again, that never goes away. So you have long-term ongoing support. We have the office hours scheduled at two different times. One of them in the month is at noon my time, Mountain Time. The other's at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. That tends to make sure that no matter what time zone you're in, one of those sessions per month is going to work for you. We also record the office hours webinars and store them on a separate site for you to go back and review for up to 18 months, value of $23.95. Here is what one of my students said about the course. This is a naturopath from Arizona. I asked my students on the Facebook group, why did you decide to take my class? He said the interactive online platform with an experienced teacher and practitioner was what drew him in. You said the fundamentals of iridology could be learned in this format, and that's what was delivered, plus a lot more on how to integrate it directly into current practice. I'm very happy with the training, so thank you. That was lovely. Now, if you want to certify with IPA, there are 3 levels of exams that you need to do. The first one, Level 1, IPA 1, is a set of 10 case studies that I give to you. You do write-ups. You'll never do iridology this way after you graduate when I'm done with you, but you do it this way for the test. You send it back to me. I grade them, and then you and I meet in a private Zoom to go over your results. If there's anything that I thought you weren't clear on, I reteach that for you. If there's things that were great, I let you know what was wonderful. And when you and I both decide that you are rock solid, then you get to move on to IPA Exam 2, which is a case study that IPA gives to me. I give it to you, you do the assessment on it, you send it back to me, I grade it, we have a private Zoom, we go over it, and we make sure you are rock solid. Most other iridology teachers charge extra for this. The exam mentoring is not included in their tuition as a gift. And this is a gift to all of my students, any of my students who decide they want to certify. Not all of my students do certify, but those who do want to, this is included as a gift for them. So what we have, exam 3 is done by IPA. It's what happens after exam 2. Let's just go back for just a second because this is important as well. After exam 2, if you and I agree that you are rock solid and ready, then you buy your student membership from IPA. I let IPA know that you have completed the curriculum and I have confidence that you're going to do well on the exam. Then you purchase the exam, you pay for the exam to IPA, and they give you a week, access to the exam site for a week. Once you start the exam, you've got 4 hours to complete it. You can't pause it, so you got to sit for 4 hours and get it done. And you have to get a minimum grade of 80% on each of the 7 sections to actually pass the exam. And if you don't, then we talk about what happens next, right? So the exam is a totally separate fee. It's not included in this, and neither is your student membership. Those are things that are up to you. So the total value of everything that I include is $31,302. That is the total value. But that doesn't seem, while the value is there, and you know, really lifelong support, that's worth a ton, right? But this is a prohibitive amount for most of my students. And so I've chosen a more reasonable starting place. And that is the tuition is $23.95 Canadian. So when we look at this, you might be thinking, well, that's way better than $31,000, but do you have a payment plan? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is a payment plan, $549 Canadian. Now let's talk about currency conversion, because this is important. If you're in the US, when you go to the link I'm going to give you to get registered for the program, it's going to show $23.95 Canadian. But if you're from the US and using a US credit card and it's going to take you through US PayPal, it's going to charge you in Canadian dollars, and that's going to work out to about 1900 US. If you're in the UK, it's going to be about 1400 British pounds sterling. And if you're in Australia, it's about 2500 Australian dollars. If you opt for the payment plan, 5 payments of $549 Canadian or $435 roughly US. I don't control the exchange rates, and they are often dictated by politics, so that can be up or down from there, but approximately $325 British pounds sterling or $570 Australia. Now, this program is also available at a reduced tuition for people who want to just do it themselves with no support. So if you are a good independent learner and you're good at watching videos and things like that, you can do that. Now, that course will not prepare you for certification because it does not include the necessary mentorship exams that are in there. But if you're interested in that option, reach out to me and I will send you the details. This next course starts on Thursday, January 28th, so just a week from tomorrow. 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Now, I have also added a new unit to the course on how to get iridology photos when you cannot be face-to-face with your client because of lockdown or distance. And so that's an important thing for you to know as well. Also important for you to know that registration closes January 22nd at 6 p.m. Mountain. So if you're watching this and if this is still up, then registration may still be open. I plan on taking this recording off Facebook at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So registration closes tomorrow night at 6 p.m. January 22nd, or when we have 10 students enrolled. This is Michelle Davies. She came to me with lots of iridology certifications already, but she says that my course was very complete, and most importantly, it taught her how to put it all together to make an assessment. So that is great. Something she had not learned in her other classes. This is Stephanie Morgan. She has a master's in education. So she's a smart cookie too. I have several books on iridology, and I tried to teach myself and spent hours online on YouTube watching various portions of classes and presentations. They were so conflicting and confusing and overwhelming. I told my husband, this is beyond me. I'm not getting this at all. She took the class and I asked her, why did you take my course? And she said, I'd seen enough of instructors online to know you were the best teacher. The way you organize info, check for understanding, and coach students. Other instructors know their stuff, but you have the heart of a teacher. I wanted to graduate with understanding, not just knowledge. And that's brilliant, because what good will this do you if you don't know how to apply it, right? Fabulous. So again, this course begins January 28th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So we meet every Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m. For 2 hours. All classes are recorded, so if you have to miss a lesson, that's fine. You can make it up by listening when you can get back to it. I've just posted that registration link on the chat on the webinar. Those of you who are on the Facebook, you can see it's iridology.education/enroll, ENROLL1. So just need you to know that I'm no different than you. I started my business from scratch, did it the way I was taught, didn't work very well, and made mistakes along the way. but I've developed a tested and proven plan that's worked for over 3 decades for assessing my clients' needs and creating programs that they can be successful with, and to helping me streamline my client work. I didn't have a mentor for any of this. Once I finished my classes, I was on my own, except for my Iridology instructor, who has been an angel. But now I happily share this with practitioners all over the world, and we have had many international students as well. And I do it so that they don't have to spend 10 or more frustrating years figuring out how to do this. I don't want them to give up on their dreams. I don't want you to give up on your dreams. I want you to have the business of your dreams on your own terms. And if Iridology can help you, then that's what I want for you. Here is that enrollment link right again, iridology.education/enroll. And with this, again, registration closes January 22nd at 5 p.m. I just want you to remember why you're here today, why you came. You came maybe because you didn't feel totally confident. You don't feel totally confident when you're face-to-face with your clients. Or maybe you came because you're tired of giving your time away for free, of not earning what you are really worth. Maybe you came because your clients only come in for 1 or 2 appointments and then they disappear, and you are tired of having to look for new clients. Maybe you came because you feel like you should just get a real job. Or maybe you came because you just wanted to learn about the Iridology program. That's a fair thing too, right? Regardless of why you came, it's important to know that if you really want to get in on this go around, you want to use that enrollment link. If you've got questions, now there are no call slots left, I don't think, for before enrollment closes. But if you've got questions and you're thinking, oh, not right now, but in the spring when we offer this again, then I'm going to encourage you to use this link, the calendly.com/dynamic-iridology/insight-call. Book a call with me and let's chat to make sure to find out if this is really a good fit for you and if you are ready for this program for when it happens in the springtime. Questions and answers here. Let's answer some questions and then we're going to get to that freebie I promised you, okay? Question number 1, I live in a time zone that puts the class at midnight where I live. Can I still sign up for this course and be successful? Heavens, yes. We've had clients from Australia where the class was going to be at like midnight. We've got one from Slovenia right now. She's doing just all the recordings, but she wanted the support, so she's in the full meal deal program because she wants to certify as well. And so she listens to the recordings. She is very, very faithfully doing that. And she posts questions on Facebook. And when she can make it to office hours, she comes there to ask questions as well. So yes, you can absolutely be successful regardless of the time zone you live in. How long will it take to do the course? Well, 20 weeks to do the classwork, right? And then I give my students who want to certify 10 more months to finish all of the certification requirements that they need me for. So that's the 10 case mentoring, the 1 case mentoring. And then, once you've decided that, once we've decided that you're ready to roll, I can let IPA know that you're ready, then you can purchase your student membership anytime. I have found that if my students don't get their case studies done within that first 10 months, they're not going to get them done. And that's why I cut it off at 10 months of support. If after 10 months you decide that, I made a mistake, I really do want to certify, you can buy a certification package from me, which will buy you the mentoring as a separate package. How much time do I need per week to do the program? Well, 2 hours per class. And then I always suggest 2 to 3 hours per week minimum for study and review. If you can study and review between classes, you will get so much further, so much faster. You'll see that it's just true. Because if you've studied and you know your stuff, then when we are doing or practicing at the end of every lesson, you're right there getting your hands dirty. You know what you're doing. And if you haven't practiced, you kind of just sit back and you go, wow, did they ever know their stuff? Which isn't as empowering. Going to be out of town next month. Will I fall behind? No. We do this by webinar. If you can catch us, if the time zones work and you can catch us, great. Join us from whatever wonderful place you're at. If you are somewhere where that's not going to work, things are recorded. You can make it up the next day. How do I know if this course is right for me? If you're a herbalist, a nutritionist, a naturopath, if you're looking for a way to assess your clients more quickly, more accurately, to create deeper rapport, to eliminate your unpaid program creation time, or if you simply want to learn the most scientifically validated, up-to-date style of iridology, then this course is for you. When will I know enough to start using what I've learned? Well, it's like this. You'd better start practicing after lesson 2. We start really going deep on lesson 2, and the sooner you start using it, the better it sticks. Don't wait till the end of the program to start practicing, or you will be so lost it will not make sense. What else do I need to buy for this? Well, there's a couple of things, and they're not expensive. The first thing, I'm just reaching for mine that's hiding back here on my desk. No, I had it out this afternoon, which means I moved it. Yep, I moved it. A lighted magnifying glass. Oh, there it is. I like the one that has the interchangeable lenses. So we've got different powers, and a pen light, right? So that's maybe $50 or $60 worth Canadian. And I post examples of those on the student Facebook group prior to the next cohort beginning, so you can see exactly what kinds of things you could buy. Buy them locally if you can. If you are okay with Target or Walmart or Amazon, they're always available there as well. If I don't like the course, can I get a refund? My mandate is to make this course your very best learning experience ever. And because this is also a professional course, there are no refunds. Here's your state at the end gift. Now, this looks like a simple grid paper, doesn't it? But it is very powerful when you know how to use it. You will see here that there is a link. And again, on the webinar, I can post this into the messages for you. There you go. And for the rest of you, the link is bit.ly/imbalance-priority-list. So what this is, you see down the left-hand side, we've got numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10. This is appointment number 1. This is appointment number 2, 3, and so on. Here you are going to put what the imbalance is, what the date is that you're working on this. Here you're going to put what the imbalance is. If you know iridology, you're going to write which markers informed you. So for example, the young lady we looked at with PCOS, and here I'm going to put gateway arch, okay? And then I'm going to put here the dietary recommendations, the supplements, and the lifestyle recommendations. So hers was more leafy greens, more protein, no refined carbs, no supplements. And here it was walk to the grocery store twice a week and prepare your own food, right? And so in that first appointment, we've written down the 1 marker. Then I'm going to write down at least 3 more appointments worth of things that I want to work on. So I might want to do more with the gateway arch, but next time I might be suggesting good fats. I might want to, because gateway arch implies liver and pancreas, I might here still put gateway arch / liver pancreas, and I might make my recommendations here. I'm keeping this column in pencil. This is the only column that I'm filling in advance. So I'm filling in 3 or 4 appointments worth on that very first appointment for here. And each time I meet my client, I'm filling in whatever I think is appropriate here. This is for my eyes only. My client's not going to see this, but this helps me to keep my appointments down to time. By not writing microscopically, it helps me to give my clients a nice amount of homework without overloading them. If it takes more than this space in my normal handwriting, I know I've given them too much homework. See how that works and how helpful that can be? So here we go again, both of the links. If you know you're ready to enroll, hop on over to iridology.education/enroll1. If you're thinking, oh, I'm so close, but I've got a couple of questions I'd like to have answered, book a call, calendly.com/dynamic-iridology/insight-call, and we can have a conversation. and see if the next available start date is a good fit for you. Remember, there's only room for 10 students in a class. I keep my groups small to make sure that my students can get their questions answered. Or if you're interested in the self-study version that has no support at all, but has a reduced tuition, let me know and I'll make sure you get that information. There we go. There are your links again. Thank you so much for spending the last hour and 40 minutes or so with me. I hope you have a fabulous evening and I look forward to having you in the program. Bye for now.